Welcome to This is Khari on Insight. I'm Khari Anaharo. Also, I can be heard on Conversate in the AM exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard, the world's greatest radio. Well, it looks like news is abundant. We've got more news now in this period of time than I've seen in many years. But what's making news in the state of Ohio? Well, Governor John Kasich. Someone said to me one time, Governor John Kasich is going to sell a lot of newspapers and have a lot of people going to the website seeing what he's talking about. And apparently he's doing that. But what impact is his decisions and his being elected to governor, what impact is this having on urban communities, on city communities? Will they be able to stand the pain and the weight of his budget cuts? Also, what is the state of urban news? Where is it going? We know where it's been, but what's the future? What's the future of black newspapers? Do they have a future? Will they be able to hold up in these times when technology is dramatically shifting newspapers from to having an online presence to actually buying and reading a paper? Well, joining me is one of the deans of black newspaper development and black newspaper proliferation in the state of Ohio, Mr. Jack Harris. Also, Mr. Jack Harris is a pioneer radio owner. He was the first African American to own a radio station in the city of Columbus. So we welcome Mr. Jack Harris to This is Khari. Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Khari. How are you?
Pretty good. Jack, let's start off. What's the state of the black newspaper industry right now? We know that a lot of papers are hurting. They've cut circulation. Some have even gone online, have an online presence totally. But we've seen also a great reduction in the number of black newspapers and the presence that it once had. It doesn't seem to have that anymore. Or maybe we're misreading. Maybe people still are reading. But you have been able to survive for 20 some years, and I see that your paper is read statewide. What's the secret to your success?
Well, I think the secret of my success when I started in this market, knowing nothing about newspapers at the time, I only had a radio background, but I did have a sales background, and that's the key. You know, it's all about, you can have a journalism background, that's good, and I've known of people that had a journalism background. They started a paper and they went straight under.
Went belly up.
Exactly, because that's not that's good to have that knowledge, whereas it doesn't sell papers and it doesn't sell you advertising. You got to be able to market and know about marketing. So that's one thing. When I had at the time when I started the communicator, it was first called the Black Communicator when it first came into this market, and at that time, it was a whole different story. Mm-hmm. And it's because I had the radio station and I had already advertisers on hand, so I could easily
you could work one hand and work the other.
With the other.
Now it's called the Communicator. Am I correct? There's different versions. There's the Cleveland Communicator. There's the Columbus Communicator. And I believe they're in two other cities.
Dayton and
Cincinnati. So each one is called by the title of the city, and then the last name is Communicator.
Exactly. And actually, we are the minority communicator at DBA with the, as we always say, the Columbus Communicator. And sometimes we even say Communicator News as a short, because the name is so long. But the actual corporation is the minority communicator, and with our DBAs, the Dayton, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus Communicator.
All right, let's get right to it. What is the state of black newspaperdom? I'm creating these terms. What is the state of black newspaperdom in 2011?
I think now there was about a year and a half and 2 years ago, it was really bleak when you heard so much about when the market was so bad, just a little bit over a year actually. It looked as if that black newspapers were but let me say this in two ways. It looked as if the mainstream papers were having the biggest trouble, but the black newspapers really had the best go of it, because our expenses, when you own a mainstream newspaper, and I had the Columbus Times here, and I was going 6 days a week. I don't know if you recall that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I did that. and I got a lot of the staff from the old journal. When I first came into the market with the radio station in 1984, the journal was just going under. And
The Columbus Journal.
The Columbus Journal, yes. So I got a lot of staff from there. I had employees were of all races. It was black, white, and Asian, and so at that time, I learned a lot that what it takes expense-wise to operate a mainstream paper. They're trying to publish every day. So what I'm what I'm getting to is that it takes so much to run a mainstream paper every day. They're the ones that hit it, that got hit hard. Now in the black newspaper, I feel we have a better chance because our expenses are already lower than because we're only publishing once a week, but since that time it was pretty bleak at that time. But now I feel that the newspaper in general, mainstream and weekly newspapers, have now gotten stronger.
Stronger?
I feel that they have because of the fact, and speaking heavily. Well, let's put it like this: is the Dispatch bleeding? I mean, if I were so
when you say
blessed.
When you say stronger, what do you mean?
Well, I mean stronger in advertising and stronger in people reading the paper. I think we have same as the advertisers I had. I'm getting now better advertisers than I had before that it was so bad during the bad time and before. And I think one thing is a big help that I'm in the national NNPA, National Newspapers Association of all black.
So are you suggesting that these could be boom times for black newspapers?
I am suggesting that it could be, and it appears that this year, for me at least, it appears to be a good year. I see most newspapers it's kind of like in radio. They buy in quarters. Like my first and second quarter is very good, so it's kind of like you hope for all 4 quarters.
What's causing this resurgence in ad buying and resurgence in readership?
I think because there was a time when the buyers first. Black newspapers only get the crumbs off of the table. Mm-hmm. But when the market got better, we may say, well, is the market any better? Yes, it is. Because there was a time about a year and a half ago, Khari, it was bleak. But I'll have to say in Columbus.
But better, I was going to say better for whom? According to Governor John Kasich, it's not gotten any better. The state revenue is not improving. Particularly in the African American community, employment remains 4 times as high. Yes. Desperation. I mean, so who is it getting better for? Some rich folks?
Well, certainly. The worst times are the best for the rich folks, right, and the billionaires. That's how you stay rich. It's like taking $200,000 and moving to some place like Haiti, and you're going to get work for naturally slave labor. So you come out better. The rich always benefit. They're not going to cry when times are bad. You can count on that.
I'm sure that
they buy more property, and they know, and they betting on, just like the stock market, that things are going to get better because we go through these cycles.
I'm waiting to see that happen because one of the things that the Federal Inquiry Commission came out and looked at was this whole question of how the crash took place in 2008. And what they've said is that the same problems that existed during the crash exist today. Did you know, for example, Jack, that derivatives or credit default swaps and all those kind of financial bogus, some call financial instrument, which has turned America, some say, into a gambling economy. Did you know that the outstanding amount for that is $673 trillion? That's the best estimate, $673 trillion. There's no way in the world we can ever pay that off. No way. And until we get hold of that stranglehold, how are we really emerging? Plus, the Federal Reserve creates money not based on any gold. There's no standards. This money's created out of thin air. So we're running the risk of massive inflation. There's no regulation, no correctives. So if these are boom times, I'd hate to see when super boom time comes. I'd hate to see when dust time comes, man, because this is scary to me.
But Khari, in lieu of all of this that you're saying, the stock market has the feeling that that we're recovering, and anytime we feel like that, when the market feels that we're recovering, people start spending. The retail stores where I get business, the banks, they start spending. At the time when all the car makers were in serious trouble, they are rebounding. That you have to admit. Then you have to think about the banks. They were in big trouble. Ironically, we thought there was this. It was so bad that it was, as my mother, who is 100 years and some days old. Can you imagine?
God bless her.
Yes, she remembers the Great Depression in 1929 is what she speaks of a lot, and there was such a comparison to that time. We don't understand, and when we talk about President Obama, this man did I have some nays and some yays, as I said before, but for any president to come in and the time that he came in, I don't know if another person could have done it or not. I feel that because pulled us back to our economy out of. Well, wait a minute. Done what? Where were we? We were in the chaos. We
still are.
People. No. But you were at the. We were at the point of going into a depression such as the one that had people jumping off of buildings.
You're in a depression now, according to Governor John Kasich, according to the state Ohio legislature.
I can't agree with that.
Then why is he trying to climb out of an $8 to $10 billion deficit?
Well, there's always been deficits. There's been a deficit.
Not an $8 to $10 billion deficit.
But let me tell you this: there's been a deficit with the U.S. With the United States and government for the longest. There were always, when it says cut this, I hear this stuff when congressmen are in Congress and says we want to cut this so that our children won't have this deficit. Your children will have a deficit, and your children's children from the time forever.
All right.
Till the end of time.
All right,
because it's a bunch of bull that you're not going to get out of.
All right, we got him riled up.
Yeah.
Stay right there. There's more to come with Jack Harris, the Columbus communicator, right here on This is Khari. We are pleased to have Jack Harris join us. As we said earlier, Jack Harris is truly a pioneer. He's a pioneer in more than just newspapers. He also was the first African American in the city of Columbus to ever own a radio station. Ever. And I put big emphasis on ever. But he's pioneered. He's also had 20-some years in newspapers. He publishes a newspaper entitled the Columbus Communicator. He also publishes one in Cleveland titled the Cleveland Communicator, one in Dayton entitled the Dayton Communicator, and one in Cincinnati entitled the Cincinnati Communicator. Now, Jack was very, very passionate and very defending of President Obama, so I'm going to let his word stand on that. The verdict is still out in a lot of people's minds, and we'll see, but we're going to shift to the state of Ohio. Now, a lot of people have recently blamed black folks for why Strickland laws. Oh, black folks didn't come out to vote. That's the problem. They didn't come out to vote. Well, there are two fallacies in that position. One, even if they had, Ted Strickland, the Democrat, in 4 years, cannot lay claim to much that would give black people a reason to be enthusiastic about his candidacy. There wasn't much coming out of it for black people. Secondly, and this is probably equally as important, there was a shift between his vote total against Ken Blackwell and his vote total of Kasich of about 700,000 votes. Those were not black votes because black folks did not vote for Kasich. Those were white people who shifted their votes from Strickland to Kasich. Now the question is why? What changed? Kasich won the election by somewhere around 100,000 votes. But since he's been in there, he's been very aggressive. And he's ran into a lot of problems. One of the ones he's run into, first thing he ran into, they said he wouldn't hire no black folks in his cabinet. So that got a lot of play. Second thing he ran into was collective bargaining. He's trying to, now he's got the big budget sitting out there with cuts all along the way. So I've got Jack Harris. Jack loves politics. By his own admission, he just loves politics. Jack Harris tells me he watches CNN 24 hours a day. He says he never gets any sleep. but he's a man that's passionate. You saw what I mean. He's about ready to hit me with a baseball bat. You saw how passionate he was about politics. But he's a great man, and he has a lot of opinions. Let's ask him. I want to talk to you, Jack, about Kasich. What's your read on Kasich? Now, I remember Kasich many years ago when he was started out, I believe, as a state rep. Then he went on to Congress. But I remember him. I remember talking to him. But what's your feel for who Kasich is?
Well, I think I'm going to go back who Kasich is and go as he was running against Strickland. I think Strickland, one of the reasons he lost, and he only, as you said, it was a very small, maybe 2% or something, but in terms of the numbers. But Strickland just forgot about the people that got him in there. He didn't advertise hardly in any black papers across the state of Ohio. He didn't advertise in mine or hardly any paper.
He didn't have nothing to say.
Well, but the point is, you don't have to do anything. That doesn't stop you from marketing. But you can just putting your name out there. Then the next thing is, I think one thing that I gave Kasich credit for over Strickland. Strickland, when he was running ads on TV, as an example, he just didn't look real. He didn't look like he was talking to the people. It's like whether you're on camera or you're on a microphone on radio, you've just got to talk to the people. He didn't look for real. He was there, but he wasn't there.
Almost like he really wanted to get out of the job.
Well, I won't go that far, but but Kasich, I give him credit when he did his commercials. His TV commercials were genuine looking, and I think that was the big key in it all. If you're going to run TV, which they put so much the credit of TV, what it does for a candidate.
Jack, wait a minute, Jack, you just said something, and I can't let it pass. I did let it pass longer than I normally would. Strickland didn't give no money to the black media or any substantial
hardly at all. I have
that right?
Not at all. I walked over to the office, which is 2 blocks from me downtown, and they were on 4th with their headquarters. And they said, "Oh, we're going to advertise." It never happened. And I, as it got close, "Oh, well, we don't have advertising dollars." I says, "Really?" and that it was just a shocker. And so the thing of like whomever is in office, whether it's Kasich or as a Republican and the Democrats, you don't forget the people who got you there.
Never.
He forgot the people who got him there. He could have done a terrible job. It may not have been the best job, as you would say. I won't say he did the worst job, but nevertheless, I'm not saying that. You're saying that, Khari. But the point is, he could have.
Well, I made my position clear on it, didn't I?
Yes, you did. But he didn't market himself. He may have done a terrible job, but he could have made himself look so good, and he made himself look not good at all.
What is the power of black media in influencing politics? Jack, you've looked at this probably better than anyone in the state of Ohio. Some now are calling you the godfather in that respect. What impact does black media have on moving political opinion one way or the other?
Well, I think what it does is when you see an ad in a black paper, you hear an ad on black radio, it means that you're going after that particular group, and that's why it's so important. So that's the key right there. When you we like our paper goes into over 20 churches, more than any minority paper here, and probably in the state, and I'm sure of that. And when people see whatever they see, if they see Chase Bank in the paper, it says, "Well, I'm going to go to this bank because they look like as if they are going after the black community." So that's the difference, and that is the key.
So that has an impact on telling black people in particular that to this candidate or to that candidacy, your vote is important.
Exactly.
Okay, that's all right to tell me my vote is important, but what's your agenda? I think we get more from these politicians, more symbols and not substance. And I'm frankly tired of symbolism. I'm tired of not having substance. I want to see Obama. I want to see Kasich lay out, and I said the same thing to Strickland, lay out for me a specific plan of urban redevelopment and revitalization. Nail it down. Put a dollar amount, commit, pass it, implement it. Don't see it nowhere. Nowhere. So everybody wants to run and praise and kiss the feet of these politicians. Look, let me tell you one thing. These politicians are not royalty. They are elected officials. They're there to do our will. We're their bosses. They ought to stand up and clap for us when we walk in the room. You see what I'm saying? So I'm asking, where is Obama's agenda for the revitalization of black people? Where is Kasich's agenda? And when do we call for it using the platforms that we have, Jack?
Well, to speak of Obama so far, he hasn't not done enough for the agenda, speaking for black people.
Hasn't done anything
at this time. Well, he did
been
get
there 3 years.
Well, he
Hasn't
did
done
get
nothing.
No, but he did get the black farmers who should have gotten.
That
through.
was already in tow. Bush set that up.
But at one time they wanted to. He did get it through. It did come under his watch.
It came under Bush's watch.
Well, I mean, it was passed, and I guess they're going to get their money.
Georgie Bush, by the way.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, but the point is, what I can say for Obama, what he has done for black folks, it hasn't come to light. He has this philosophy: when I help people in this United States of America, which is what a president has to do, that I'm going to help black people. But I think we're going to see more of this on when he is reelected.
Oh
and
my
I believe
God!
he's
Just
going
be,
to
just
be
oh
reelected.
y'all, just wait, just wait. Delayed gratification. We've heard Jimmy Carter say the same thing. We heard Bill Clinton say the same thing. Now, just wait. Let's get him reelected. Maybe in the 7th year of his election, you start to see something happen. No. We can't go with that anymore. I think it is. You have a microphone. You have the platform, Jack. And I know in your newspaper, you're going to start pushing for an urban agenda. Am I correct?
Well, that is true, and let me tell you,
you've done more than anybody to push for it.
Well, true, but I am in the NNPA, which is the National Newspaper Association, which is collectively has over 250,000 black newspapers across this United States, and we've already spoken out to Obama about certain things that the government. Things that are running ads that could go into our paper.
That's right.
We've already talked about this. He could do more. And here's another thing is what I would like to see under Obama's watch, which we have not seen yet. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but it's important to me. When you talk about black generals, and like in it's been in Ebony where they've shown that there are very few. There's no 4-star black generals now.
Wow.
And unfortunately, or fortunately,
you talking about in the Army
and
any
the Army,
branch of
Navy,
service?
and yes, and
wow,
exactly. No 4-star generals. We got, I believe, 2 3-star generals, and General Honoré, who I don't know if you're aware of him. He is. He's on CNN now. But he's from Louisiana. Now, he retired. I was hoping that he would have become a 4-star general.
He was the one that took over down when we had the flood of New Orleans.
Yes, exactly.
Very courageous character. And he did a lot of good things down there.
Exactly. General Powell is the last 4-star general, which of course went to be the chairman. And ironically, it was all done under the Republicans. He rose through from Nixon right through Bush, and of course he was when Clinton came in. He stayed chief of staff.
Jack,
but that's a poor excuse.
It is, Jack. You have led the way. Now, the reason why I'm pushing you is because I know there's no one else who can lead the way. You are the one that will get it done. You have spoken out, you have been courageous, and we applaud the work you have done for years. Where are we going now, Jack? What do you see happening? And we got about a minute left. What do you see happening in the next 10 years in America?
Well, I think it's going to be politically across the country. I think I think America is going to be fine. I mean, we've gone through some ups and downs, but I think regardless who's in office, Republican or Democrat, I think it's going to be fine, and I think we will survive it all. I think you're going to see more elected people of Latin descent in. I expect to be a Latin president within the next 10 years, and I'm so glad my mother, who is 100 years in some days now, that has lived to be, regardless of what we think of him, this is something we should have a right to have a black president, whomever, whether it be Republican or we should have a right. And I don't believe in that we got to go back to Bushes twice. We had 2 Bushes. There's too many qualified people in this world, in this United States, might I say,
well,
that we got to have 2 Bushes. And sure in the heck, we don't want 3. And as Jesse Jackson says, stay out of the bushes.
Where are you, Jeb Bush?
Yeah, well, he may be their only hope because we got some Michelle Bachmans she is crazy as a tick, and every time she opens her mouth like Sarah Palin, she puts her foot in it.
Watch out for Donald Trump.
She was in New Hampshire, and she messed up there about her history, which they don't seem to have studied history very well.
Watch out for Donald Trump.
It will never happen.
Well, we'll wait and see.
I don't. Donald Trump is Donald Trump, but I never see that happen.
All right, thank you there. Thank you, Jack Harris, so much for all of your work. Thank you for being the humanitarian that you are. We appreciate you, and God bless you, and can keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you for watching. This is Khari on Insight.